This passage is called Gadhadā 177, which is not invalidating dharma under the pretext of jnana. There's many Sanskrit words in this text, and I hope to do my best to translate them to you. This comes from the Swaminarayan tradition, which is a very large sect of Hinduism, which believe in a being called Bhagwan Swaminarayan, who was around only about 200 years ago. And he did lots for breaking down cultural barriers and for women's rights, which have notoriously been very diminished in India for hundreds of years. This book is all about the spiritual discourses he shared in the last 10 years of his life. So dharma means righteous duty, and jnana means knowledge. So this is not invalidating righteous duty under the pretext of knowledge. Sounds like it's going to be a very philosophical passage, I think. Let's find out. On the Amas of the second Jeshta, Samvat 1876, which in our familiar calendar is the 10th of July, 1820, Swami Sri Sahajanandji Maharaj, which was one of the names for Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Sahajananda means an organic bliss. That was his monk name when he was initiated. His monk name was Organic Bliss in Sanskrit. And that was your birthday when this discourse was going on. Well, specifically dedicated to you, Cameron. It's also tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. How lovely is that? So Bhagwan Swaminarayan, was sitting on a large decorated cot on the veranda outside the west-facing rooms in front of the mandir of Sri Vasudev Narayan in Dada Akhar's darbar in Gadhadā. He was dressed entirely in white clothes. At that time, an assembly of munis, scholars, as well as devotees from various places had gathered before him. Swaminarayan's one of the most beautiful things about their tradition I've learned is that they love to tell you everything about what was going on at the time of that teaching. They give you the context, who was around, what were they sitting on, what tree were they facing, what were they wearing. In the assembly, the munis were engaged in a question-answer dialogue amongst themselves. During the dialogue, a muni, a scholar, out of misunderstanding, began to invalidate the dharma on the basis of faith in the divine. Hearing this, Sri Ji Maharaj, yet another term of endearment for Swaminarayan, commented, "A person who forsakes dharma under the pretext of the jnana, the knowledge of the divine, should not be considered." The form of the divine which possesses countless redemptive qualities, which Prithvi has described to dharma in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavat, a very famous story in Hinduism. Therefore, a person who has accepted the refuge of the divine acquires these redemptive virtues. Whatever we see in the source, that we acquire ourselves. Moreover, a person who has faith in the divine also acquires the 30 attributes of a sadhu, of a monk, described in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavat. Therefore, one who does not possess the 30 attributes of a sadhu should not be considered to be a true sadhu yet. Conversely, a person who does have faith in the divine definitely acquires the redemptive virtues of the divine within their heart. When these virtues of the divine are acquired by a sadhu, a monk, they also acquire the 30 attributes of a sadhu. From today onwards, then, whoever forsakes dharma, righteous duty, in the form of the 5 religious vows, solely advocating the strength of bhakti or jnān, of loving devotion or wisdom knowledge, is someone who contradicts the guru, the spiritual teacher, and the guru's word, the teaching. Anyone who even talks of such a lapse in dharma and righteous duty should be acknowledged and affirmed that you have sided with something with a perspective that I cannot accept. With such words, the talks of a person who is not quite righteous should be acknowledged in this way. Thereafter, a sadhu, a monk, asked, Maharaj, there may be an extremely staunch devotee who suffers great pain and who babbles meaninglessly at the time of death, whereas a person who does not seem to be a true devotee appears extremely composed at the time of death. In fact, they die in comfort, realizing the immense glory of the divine, and even expressing their glory. What is the reason behind this? Please explain why a pious person's death appears to be unpleasant in comparison to an ordinary person's death, which appears to be pleasant. Sriji Maharaj explained, a person's mind is influenced by the 8 factors of place, time, action, company, meditation, mantra, initiation, and scriptures. If these 8 factors are pure, the mind becomes pure. If they are impure, the mind becomes impure. Also, the divine Maya, material existence, inspires the dharmas, the righteous duties of the 4 yugas, of the 4 ages, to prevail in turn within a person's heart. If, at the time of death, the dharma of Satya Yuga, the golden age, the age of truth, is prevalent, then death appears very pleasant. If the dharma of either Treta Yuga or Dwapara Yuga prevails, then death appears less pleasant. But when the dharma of Kali Yuga, the dark age, prevails at the time of death, then death appears extremely unpleasant. In this way, the pleasantness and unpleasantness of death is determined by Kal, by time as well. Hello, bright eyes. The 3 states, waking, dream, and deep sleep, are also factors. If, at the time of death, the waking state is prevalent, then even a sinner would die while still being active. If the dream state prevails at the time of death, then a person dies mumbling somewhat incoherently, even if they happen to be a devotee. Furthermore, if at the time of death the deep sleep state is predominant, then regardless of whether one is a devotee or someone who does not believe, one passes away unconsciously, unable to say anything, either good or bad. However, if one dies while thoroughly realizing one's jivatma, their individual soul, as transcending these 3 states, and as being Brahmarup, the form of the divine, one passes away displaying all the powers of the divine. Passing away in such a way is possible only for devotees of divinity. Basically, those who have reverence for that essence, that consciousness of life within everyone and everything. In this way, Kal, time, as well as the three states determine the pleasantness and unpleasantness apparent at the time of death. Nevertheless, even if someone who does not believe in the divine dies speaking normally, with the waking state being predominant, that does not imply in any way that they will attain liberation. In fact, regardless of whether they die pleasantly or unpleasantly, they are reborn to a lower realm for the time being. Conversely, regardless of whether a devotee of the divine speaks normally, incoherent, or maybe even remains silent at the time of death, they definitely attain liberation. There is no doubt whatsoever in this fact. All devotees should realize this. Although a devotee of the divine appears to be suffering pain when passing away due to factors such as the dream state, etc., in fact, due to grace, they experience great bliss within. So then, even if at the time of death a devotee passes away babbling incoherently, that's a fun sentence, no doubts at all should ever be entertained regarding their liberation. That's fun. Thus we conclude Gadhadā I, 77. So, thank you for listening.